I've made a 3-layer cake. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4 cake. And it's a cake that I make from scratch. It's not out of a box. And so I'm going to make a cooked chocolate icing to go on top of it and the sides and between the layers. Now, let me show you again. I've already showed you this several times in my videos. Here's my old Southern Living cookbook that my mom gave to me. Once I got grown and was cooking and stuff, she gave this cookbook to me. This is where I'm getting my cooked chocolate frosting from. It's in this book. See where that writing is out to the side on that recipe? Okay, this is my cooked chocolate frosting. So we're going to start measuring everything out into the saucepan here, and we'll start it cooking. First of all, we want to put in 2 cups of sugar. So let me get my sugar. One and 2. That's my 2 cups of sugar. Okay, next we want to put in our cocoa. It is calling for 1 1/2 squares of unsweetened chocolate. I talked to you about this in my fudge recipe. It also called for 2 squares of chocolate. And so I was explaining to you how to substitute ingredients to make those squares of chocolate instead of actually going to the store and having to spend a lot of money to buy these unsweetened squares of chocolate. There is a substitution that you can do for that, and it's just very cheap. So 1 square of chocolate, the substitution for 1 square of chocolate is 3 tablespoons of cocoa plus 1 tablespoon of butter. So I need 1 1/2 squares of chocolate. So that means I need 4 1/2 tablespoons of cocoa, and I need 1 1/2 tablespoons of butter. So I'm going to go ahead and put my cocoa in now with the sugar, and I'm going to mix that up real good, and that will keep the cocoa from lumping up once we try to add the liquid ingredients. So let me put in 4 1/2 tablespoons of cocoa. This is a tablespoon. One. Two. Get it to come out of there. 3. 4, and then I'm just going to fill it halfway up for the 1/2 tablespoon. Okay, 4 1/2. There we go. That's got our cocoa. Now we need to mix this up. Like I said, this cocoa and sugar. We can mix this up, get the lumps out of the cocoa. This will take just a minute. I'll tell you a little bit about this 1, 2, 3, 4 cake and this cooked chocolate icing. I have made this cake ever since I was, I guess, in my 20s probably. And my children, all the time they were growing up at home, this is the cake they always wanted for their birthday. So I've always made, and now that they're grown and they're away from home, they still want me to make this cake for them. They love this cake. When they were small, I had a birthday party for Dave, I believe it was, and invited over some of his little friends, and the moms, you know, brought the kids over, and so I had made this cake, and I didn't think anything about it. I mean, to me, this is normal to make this cake. It's no big deal to me, you know. Okay, let's put in, I've got that stirred up real well. Got that stirred up real well, so we need 1/2 cup of milk. I'm going to pour this in slowly. And pour a little bit in, stir it up, pour a little more in, stir it up until you get the 1/2 cup in there. So putting in just a little bit of it, and that's to help keep it from lumping up as well. So I was I had this cake. You know, we sang happy birthday, blew out the candles, I cut the cake, gave everybody some cake. And I'm in my 30s by now, probably my mid to late 30s by now. And so all of these other mothers, you know, they're grown adults, probably somewhere in their, I don't know, 20s or 30s maybe. And one of the ladies said, she said, "This is the best cake I have ever had in my life." I mean, she was just exclaiming about it. And I'm like, really? You know, because it's just normal to me. And she said, you know, and I said, well, you know, I made it from scratch. This is a cake from scratch. She's like, "You made it from scratch?" She said, "I have never made a cake from scratch." And I was like, really? I said, "I have never made a cake out of a box. I've always made my cakes from scratch." So I was so surprised, you know, to meet a grown woman with kids, and she said, "I've never made a cake from scratch." But she hadn't. Okay, so we're stirring this milk in a little bit at a time. Once we get this milk in, we'll turn the burner on, let it start heating up, and we'll still have the butter that we need to add. Okay, we've got this milk in. I'm going to go ahead and turn my burner on. We're going to turn it up on like medium high, about between 5 and 6. So that would be, yeah, between 5 and 6. That's going to be about medium high. Let's get this stirred in good. Now this icing recipe is, well, I need to tell you about the whole cake. The 1, 2, 3, 4 cake, which is a yellow cake. It's a basic yellow cake. That's the cake that I have made that I'm going to put this icing on. And then this icing, this is also a cake that my Granny Cochran made. All of our years of growing up and going to her home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, she always had this yellow cake with the cooked chocolate icing on it. So this is a tradition, you know, that was passed down from my granny. My Aunt Dixie done it. Now it's been passed down to me. In fact, I showed in the video where I'm making the cake. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I showed the paper that my Aunt Dixie had written on. This is the cake recipe right here, basic cake. That's my Aunt Dixie's handwriting, and she wrote that out for me and gave it to me. So that's a little treasure there for me to have that from my Aunt Dixie. Okay, now the recipe calls for, oh well, I lost my page. Let me find it. Gotta find it again. Okay, here we go. Now we need, it says 1/4 pound of butter. Okay, so 1/4 pound of butter. It's going to be 1 stick of butter. Do not use spread. If you use spread, your icing is not going to turn out right. Now, I have used margarine before, and margarine works fine, but I just use total butter. I don't use margarine anymore. So 1 stick of butter, that's your 1/4, that's your 1/4 pound of butter. And then, but remember we had the 1½ squares of chocolate, which was 4½ tablespoons of cocoa plus 1½ tablespoons of butter. So here's our 1½ tablespoons of butter to finish out making our 1½ squares of chocolate. So we'll put that in there. All right, we've got those in there. We've got our heat on. Now this is something that you're going to have to kind of keep stirred until it starts boiling. So let's turn this back around. This boiler where you can see it. Let me get my recipe book over here. Okay, here we go. I'll take my spoon, kind of chop this butter up some where it will melt easier and faster. All right. The icing has been cooking and it's fixing to come to a boil. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to have to let it boil for 2 minutes. Okay, it's boiling. Hey, would you punch that timer over there, Carla? Okay, this is going to boil for 2 minutes. After it boils for 2 minutes, we'll add 1 teaspoon of vanilla flavoring. Then I'll have to take it off the heat. We'll take it over to the counter, and we're going to have to beat it with a beater, with a mixer, a hand mixer. I'm going to use a hand mixer for this until it thickens up some, and then we're going to put it on the cake layers, and I'll show you that. And here's my friend Carla.
I would rather beat it with a bat. That sounds like more fun than a mixer. Don't you think?
Well, never thought about that, but you know, that's a thought. I will take that suggestion into consideration. Okay, where are we at on our time? Okay, got a little less than a minute to go.
Did you tell them why you're making the icing and cake and stuff?
Well, we're making this for Thanksgiving. This is one of my holiday recipes, and so this is for Thanksgiving. Now, this cake that I'm going to put the icing on, like I told you, it's a basic yellow cake, and you can put different types of icing on it to make different cakes. This is the cooked chocolate icing. I have a cream cheese icing that I put on it sometimes, and then cover that with pecans. You can put a caramel icing. If any of you remember the old-fashioned caramel cakes, that's what that is. It's a yellow layer cake with a cooked caramel icing that goes on the top.
Time.
Okay, the timer went off, so that's 2 minutes. So let's get this off of the burner. I'm just going to move it right over here. Turn my burner off. Let's put in 1 teaspoon of vanilla, pure vanilla. Remember, everyone, don't be a hypocrite. Use the real stuff, pure vanilla. God knows if you're a hypocrite. Okay, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We'll stir that up with the spoon, and then we've got to get over to the counter and start beating this. And Carla's supposed to be my producer now. She's supposed to take over and start videoing this for me.
I'm right here whenever you're ready.
I am ready. Let's move.
Where are we going?
To the counter. Oh, what happened to my... I need my pot holder. Can you grab that pot holder and stick it down here? There we go. Here we are. Okay, are you going to take it off of the tripod there?
Sure, let's see if I can do that without giving everybody seasickness. La, 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 la. There we go.
All right, got my hand mixer. We're going to beat this up a little bit until it thickens up, but yet we want it still to pour. This is an icing that I'm going to pour on my cake layers. I'm not going to take a knife and try to dip it out and spread it and all that kind of stuff. This just pours over it. Makes a very nice, smooth icing. Okay, our icing is ready to spread. It's thickened up a little bit, and we've got to work really quick so that this icing does not get hard before I can get it out. See, I'm just pouring it, spreading it around with this knife. Got a little layer there, okay. Let's get our next layer. which is this one. I'm putting this one on next because, see, I've torn a place in the top of that. So we don't want this to be the top layer.
Looks like pancakes.
Here we go. See how that's pouring? That's what you want it to do. It'll run over the sides and kind of coat the sides. Okay, that's great. Now we're ready for our third layer. Like I said, we have to do this really, really fast. This is kind of like fudge. It'll get hard on you. All right, we've got our third layer.
And the fudge you taught them how to do in a different video, right?
Do what now?
You already did the old-fashioned fudge in another video, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
The fudge recipe is on my channel. Yeah, okay. There we go. See, we've got it on there. We've still got icing. We'll just pour this on the top. It'll run down the sides, and then I can take this knife and I can just run it up on the sides and make sure I've got icing on all of the sides. Let's see how nice and smooth that pours out. And this cake plate, see, has a little lip on it, and I use this cake plate so that it catches that icing that runs off the sides. Can you see how I'm just running the icing up?
I need to be behind you like that. There we go.
Have to do this really, really fast. If your layers start trying to slide around, you just get them with your fingers and you slide them back in place. Lick your fingers off.
They are trying to slide around on you, aren't they?
A little bit. Ooh, this icing is marvelous. Now this is perfect. This icing is just absolutely perfect. And as it cools down, it'll harden up just a little bit more. My family will be here soon. And they will be like, oh, it's that cake.
You've got some spots on the top layer that's not covered if you want to.
Where at?
Around the sides. Just some spots there.
Some random spots?
Before it cools off.
Yeah, before it cools off.
Because when this cools, this will be like...
Almost
have you ever had like
fudge.
a ding dong or something, and how it has the chocolate on the outside of the ding dong? Only this is way better. This is homemade, but I mean it's the same thing. It's all solid, like that.
And all of this little bit of chocolate.
Denise will.
You know, you'll want to get a paper towel and wipe it up, or either you can stick your fingers in it. You'll need to clean that up. So that your cake looks nice and neat. Okay, so this is the yellow cake, 1, 2, 3, 4 cake with the cooked chocolate icing. Hope y'all enjoyed this.